Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Qarase and I are here in Suva, and we're about to give our response to comments made by Frank Bainimarama during a recent, for the record, panel discussion he had on FBCTV. Given that the mainstream media have not been forthcoming in giving opposition MPs the opportunity to make comments or participate on national television and other debates, we thought that by using YouTube we may be able to get our message across. For your information, there will be a link of the full version of the For the Record program when we uplift this segment. The first issue we'd like to deal with this afternoon is dealing with our past. Many of you would have heard criticisms leveled at former politicians like ourselves for making references to the need for us to resolve the ills of the past. And none other than Frank Bainimarama is one of the big critics of us, saying that we should not be talking about the past, we should be talking about the future. But in reality, in order for us to ensure a sustainable and secure future, we need to comprehensively deal with our past so that the wounds can be healed, people can get closure, and we can find a mechanism through a reconciliation process that will unify the people and allow us to move forward with confidence. Don't you think, Mr. Qarase?
I agree with you entirely there, Mick. I think it is vitally important for Fiji's future to try and deal with our past effectively and resolve the difficulties that we've been through. Unless we do that, then it should be very difficult to chart a way forward for Fiji. I would strongly suggest that we should establish a process whereby that looking into our past becomes a process that is very transparent, accountable, and where there is complete freedom of expression by the people. Unless we do that, then it would be extremely difficult to bring closure to our past. And by the same token, it would be extremely difficult to chart a way forward for Fiji.
So that brings us to the point where when you have leaders like Mr. Bainimarama making statements such as this.
I can bet you my bottom down that the 2013 Constitution will protect everyone. Okay. There will be no repetition of 2000 and 2006, especially 2006. And that was what we've been talking about.
But he was the commander of the military forces. It was members of the military command, a person in the military command who did 1987. We all know that no coups can occur in this country unless it has the backing of the military. And when those coups occurred, there were constitutions in place. And the same officers swore oaths to protect and uphold that constitution. And Frank Bainimarama himself swore an oath to uphold and protect the 1997 constitution. And he got the president to abrogate it. So it is irresponsible for him to be talking in that manner, because he's giving an assurance he really can't keep. What do you feel about that?
Well, once again, I think you are quite right there. The Constitution is man-made. Whatever is man-made can be changed. And nobody can guarantee that there will be no more coups in Fiji. Coups depend on the state of mind and the hearts of people who intend to carry out coups. And to say that the 2013 Constitution guarantees that there will be no coups is really nonsensical. It doesn't make sense because the evil thoughts in the minds of people and in their hearts, nobody knows, only God knows. And I suppose if somebody in the future, one or two people who have sufficient arms behind them and tempted to do the same thing, they will do it all over again. So to say that the 2013 Constitution guarantees no more coups, one would suggest that that is a total nonsense.
Well, there you have it. So the fact remains that no one can say there won't be any coups. And we feel that the way in which we can guarantee that for ourselves is to comprehensively deal with our past. And that is the reason why we as members of SADALPA have been raising this matter, because in order to secure a good future for all the people of Fiji, we need to comprehensively and effectively deal with the past. The next important issue we'd like to talk about is the Great Council of Chiefs, and in particular the references made by Frank Bainimarama on the same program, that in order for the Great Council of Chiefs to be reinstated, as SADALPA has advised that it would do, it would mean amending the Constitution and removing equal citizenry.
I want to tell Qarase that it's not as easy as that, because bringing back the BLV needs endorsement of Parliament, because it comes under equal citizenry. You can't just bring back the BLV without changing the Constitution. And you need to change the Constitution to get rid of the equal citizenry, which is one of the non-negotiables of the Constitution.
The first point I want to make is that the removal of the GCC by Bainimarama and Kayum was illegal in the first place. They have absolutely no authority to abolish the pinnacle of Fijian institutions. What they should have done was to refer the question to the Fijian people. If the Fijian people in their various organizations, councils and so on, agreed to abolish the GCC, then it should be done. But in this case, the abolishment of the GCC was a decision made by two people. Now, on the issue of requiring parliamentary approval to bring back the GCC, because it ties in with the principle of equal citizenry in the Constitution, is nonsense. It is irrelevant. The GCC was created by regulation under the Fijian Affairs Act, and the decree that removed it was an amendment to the Fijian Affairs Act, and this decree was promulgated in 2012. Now, to bring back the GCC, in my understanding of the law, all you need to do is to repeal that decree and reinstate the GCC by another decree, or by reinstating the regulation under the Fijian Affairs Act.
So, Frank Bainimarama is saying that the way in which SADALPA intends to reinstate the Great Council of Chiefs is through an amendment to the Constitution, when in actual fact, that's not necessary what needs to be done. And therefore, he's sending out confusing signals in terms of what is not in the 2013 Constitution, which I don't think he really knows himself. Now, the second part that we want to talk about is with regards to the Great Council of Chiefs, and he raises the matter that the Great Council of Chiefs does not look after the interests of other communities.
All the other parties have been talking about the Great Council of Chiefs looking after the indigenous population. Yeah? So who's going to look after you? Who's going to look after the Rotumans? Who's going to look after the Chinese, the Pacific Islanders? And I've said in the past that the Great Council of Chiefs have turned political in the last 30, 40 years.
Now, with respect to this statement by Bainimarama, each of the communities have their own institutions that take care of their cultural and various aspects. The Chinese do, the Indian community do, the Rotuman community do, all the communities. And from my point of view, the Great Council of Chiefs, although it is there to take care of the needs of the indigenous people, have expanded their role over the years and taken care of all of the other communities in Fiji. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree entirely with that. The GCC, of course, was created primarily to look after the interests of the indigenous Fijians. That is correct. But over the years, and in fact over the decades, it has taken on a role that is far more than that. For example, the GCC and those who are members of the GCC are the heads of land-owning units. They are heads of Yagusas and Matanalis. And linked to those positions is the ownership of Fijian land. Now, over decades, the GCC, through their wise counsel and wisdom, has made available hundreds of thousands of acres of native land for leasing to other communities in Fiji. Now, that is an important role played by the GCC. Their role to ensure that Fijian land is used by other communities in Fiji for their own benefit and for the benefit of the country. Similarly, in relation to the use of their ngoli, they have been fairly generous as well in allowing all communities to use ngoli for sports and fishing and so on, for the benefits of those families and for the benefit of the economy as a whole. So to say that the GCC is entirely for the Fijian people only, it is quite wrong statement to make. In fact, it has played a vital role in the usage of indigenous resources for the well-being of other communities as well as the economy of Fiji as a whole.
Well, the other part of Mr. Bainimarama's remarks that we find extraordinary is that he then suggests that the other political entities, which, by the way, we notice he refers to as these new parties, some of them have been around longer than he has been on this planet himself. But these political parties, which primarily represent the Indo-Fijians, and it's interesting to note that Mr. Bainimarama refers to them as Indo-Fijians when we know he's been going around saying we're all Fijians, so sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. But he says that they support the reinstatement of the Great Council Chiefs out of fear. And the SADOPA organization, as far as I know, and Mr. Qarase is a key component of that, have never asked any of these other organizations to bring back the GCC. They have all done this out of their own volition. And here's what Mr. Bainimarama is trying to suggest now.
I don't think those new parties, especially the Indo-Fijian dominated ones, realize what bringing back the Great Council of Chiefs will mean. They're just doing it because they may be scared of what SODELPA can do if they win. Not that I'm saying that they win.
I think the one thing that Mr. Bainimarama has got right is that Sadalpa will win, and it slipped, we know, but I'm sure that's only because in his mind he realizes that that's going to be the outcome. But the other point he makes in relation to this is the fact that the Great Council of Chiefs itself is a political entity. I have never heard of the GCC being a political entity, but let's listen to what he has to say.
The Great Council of Chiefs is a totally different ballgame. It's a political entity. It's the most undemocratic entity in Fiji. They were relevant then, before 1970. I think now they are most irrelevant.
I'm interested to know who decides whether an august body like the GCC is relevant or irrelevant. What would you like to...
Well, I'd like to go back a little and say that to make the statement that Indo-Fijian parties support the reinstatement of the GCC out of fear is an insult to the non-indigenous population of this country. They are not doing it out of fear. They are doing it for their deep respect for the pinnacle of all Fijian institutions, for their respect for the GCC's continuous guidance and wisdom in the national affairs of this country. And they do it because in their hearts they believe that the GCC is an institution that should be there for all time, for the benefit of the indigenous Fijians, as well as everybody else. Secondly, to say that the GCC has been a political body since the last 30 years or so. What is wrong with the GCC having a say in the politics of the country? All other national bodies of other communities, they do express views on the politics of this country every now and then. To say that the GCC should be neutral and remain apolitical is also, in my view, a nonsensical statement to make.
Well, there you have it. That's the view that we wish to put forward with regards to Frank Bainimarama's comments on the Great Council of Chiefs. Well, that's it from us here in Suva, ladies and gentlemen. We hope that the response that we have given you will give you something to consider. And unfortunately for us, when we went through the video that Bainimarama did, there were so many inaccuracies and so many wrong statements. We just didn't have the time to be able to respond to all of them. So we selected a couple that we thought were very important. And for those of you who are interested in seeing it, the full Bainimarama video will be in the description. And we look forward to coming back to you again in the future as and when major issues arise.